Howdy, everyone. Matt again. Matt the PT coming at you. Like I said, once again, thank you so much to everyone who has been following and liking the videos. Again, I hope I get to just keep doing this, bringing up things that are going on in the world of PT, healthcare, and just starting a dialogue and discussion. I want to talk today about what I just got back from CSM, which is the Combined Sections meeting for the APTA. If you're not familiar with it, it is the largest probably conference gathering for PTs in the United States. So the APTA puts this on every year. It's around February, so very early in the year. And it's several days, usually 3 big days of the lectures and the expo, which we'll talk about. But along the week, there are other things that go on. So I just want to give you my experience and breakdown of it and some reasons why it may be beneficial for you if you ever want to go, that you may think about that in the future. So we'll just start this off by saying I would consider this is the first real one I ever attended. It's the third one I've been to total. So I went to one when I was a student in 2010. It wasn't very far away from where I was going to school. So I was like, oh, you know what? Might as well go because I got a cheaper rate on it. So I went as a student. Now, that was my first one, but like I said, I don't really maybe consider that the first real one I went to because, again, coming in as a student, some of the stuff wasn't geared toward me. So, of course, there are the vendors there that are looking to hire people and they're talking to students. But there's other things like the equipment and those things, or some of the continuing ed companies that were there. They're not really geared toward students quite as much. So they were more geared toward like the working PT and even the lectures. So some of those lectures, you did need to have a basic, understanding of treatment, that you've seen a lot of patients for things. And so that you can kind of come away with some better knowledge from that. Maybe not better, but some knowledge that you could take into the clinic. And me going in as a student, having like a very elementary understanding of treatment. I will say I got to see Lorraine Mosby talk. Very interesting. So he got up there. I will tell this story. He got up there and he played something and he said, like, I got up from my run and my swim. And after I did that, I lost my voice, but luckily all my lecture is like, there's a lot of video in it. And he played it and it ended up being John Cleese explaining the brain, but several people got up and left. Like I noticed it was in a huge hall. There's barely anybody in there. Probably like this third day. So everyone's probably a little hungover, but, people left. And looking back now, I'm like, holy cow, why? We stayed. Me and a buddy stayed. But why did I didn't go talk to him? And it was very neat to see him then. The second one I went to was here in Texas. It was in San Antonio 2 years ago, to 22. That one was good. It was very good. Very good to get back to it. But there was a couple things I would say a little off with it. One, we were coming out of the pandemic. So there were still a lot of restrictions on things. People weren't traveling a lot. There were still restrictions in the hall, so you had to mask up. And the hall wasn't even filled. That was the other thing. It wasn't even filled. And people were saying like, yeah, usually this whole thing would be full of vendors. So there was a good maybe third or a quarter of it that was just empty. There wasn't anything. They said, yeah, usually it's just full. But again, that was a very good experience. But this one, it was in Boston. And the exhibit hall was full. From back to front, side to side, with vendors and the poster presentations. It was full. Someone told me 14,000. I don't know how accurate that number is, but I've heard it's anywhere from 10 to 15,000 people. So a lot of people there. So I said this is like really the first big one, the first like real one I really got to experience, probably like the full shebang on it. So if you've never been, I'll let you know about that. So they start advertising this like a good year in advance, and you do have to register early. You do get the early bird rate, so you get a little cheaper rate, and if you're a member, you get it for a cheaper cost as well. I will say, first and foremost, the biggest thing that you will see when you get there is the exhibit hall. The exhibit hall is about 2.5 days, and there are all sorts of things there. All sorts of things. Of course, you've got some of the big companies there that are recruiting. You get travel companies there that are looking for, like students or people looking for new jobs. But also a big one, you get a lot of suppliers. So there was a ton of AI companies. So companies that are coming up with like documentation and billing systems that are using AI. There were several of those there. There were many companies that are selling equipment, some specialty equipment from everything. A lot of pelvic floor. I think probably 2 or 3 at least, specifically women's health pelvic floor booths were there, talking about anything from the equipment that they would use to like just courses and things like that as well. So that was very interesting. Again, those like the big players, so that sell like big equipment for the clinic and into like the little equipment that we hand out. So full. And it's a great thing. And I would say when you go, you do get an educator. So schools looking for, transitional programs or again, like doctoral, those things. So of course they are scattered throughout there. So it's a great time that you're walking around and you can see this is some of the new stuff that's coming out. You get to try it. You get to put your hands on it and utilize it, to get an idea. And just talking about that, again, it's a real chance that I get to put my hands on this thing. I get to try it out. So, we may hear about something, and there's a difference between, hearing about it versus putting it in your hands and someone explaining to you how it works. And then you get to utilize it and see how and get a good idea for it. And I know I've brought back some of that stuff to clinics in the past, to say like, hey, this is a new thing out through different vendors, but it's a way that you can bring it back. One issue I do have with some of the vendors, especially the equipment, and I will tell every single one of them this, that they need to be aware of the cost. So there was some cool stuff there, some big equipment stuff that does all the things, but I'm like, that price tag is, that's up there. This treadmill, this equipment for people that are dealing after a stroke is so great, but the price tag on it is $12,000, $15,000. Like, if you're a little clinic, you can't buy that. Even if you're a smaller group of clinics, you may not be able to buy it. I know when I've worked for bigger companies, they get very hesitant on spending that kind of money on a piece of equipment. They want to see how much are we going to actually utilize that equipment with patients coming in the door. And if we're not going to really get a good return on investment, it could be the greatest thing and they're not going to pay for it. Now, and I will say a lot of this stuff may just be a big hospital system is the one who can really afford it and utilize it because they, again, have that money to spend. They're going to see those patients that are coming in that will utilize it. So I do let them know. And even with like the software stuff and like, hey, if you want me to use it, most of the people there or maybe have a small clinic or their staff, they're not big in the decision making. And it's like, you need to make this stuff cost effective on it. And really, so that's one thing. Next is the lectures. So those go on for actually several days. They usually have some sort of workshop or something going on pre-conference as well. So you'll have a day or two of those before the conference. And then, of course, every single day there are 3 breaks where there are or lectures, and they're about 2 hours each. And it covers anything and everything kind of, I'm talking about the subjects of it. So of course you got your orthopedics and your oncology and pediatrics and of course pelvic floor and aquatics. All of those things are there. And this is one thing about it. It's one, you can get some good information from it. So I've gotten sat in some great lectures before presenting some very interesting information. I know like this year I sat in on one for total knees. And they said a very interesting thing that NMES, so I never say that correctly, is really underutilized. That there's a lot of evidence that it is beneficial for utilization early on with knee replacement. They said, but just not a lot of people utilize it. It's just not used a whole lot, and it's very, very good. Also, an interesting thing, they said they found that a knee replacement patient having the knee in flexion the first week after surgery decreases swelling and blood loss, which is kind of counterintuitive to what we think about, but we don't really want a lot of flexion. But it's like, no, that's really, really, good stuff. So there was some interesting stuff that really came out of that I utilized. Again, I will warn about this part of it. Sometimes you may get a talk that's just not that good. So I would say there was a total of 8 I sat in on. I missed one. 4 of them were good. 4 of them were boring, and they didn't really apply to me. So I would say sometimes that you run in, like one of the speakers was so monotone in his voice. It was just, it was like you're sitting in a lecture in school, just monotone as he goes through, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is not engaging. Also, the subject matters. The subject matter may not match up exactly with what you think it will be based upon like the name of whatever that they said that it's going to be. So you could run that risk of like, oh, cool, I'm going to go to this thing on the elbow, and they're just, spouting off the stuff. And it's like, look, this is kind of what I already knew. I want to hear something new. You're just giving me a bunch of like information that's like currently out there. I want something about what I can take to the clinic to work with patients. So you can run into that. Now, you can bounce between them. So if you're sitting in one, you're like, this is boring, you can hop up and you can go to another one. And it works if you do have a group of people that you can bounce around to other people and do that. And lastly, I will say the biggest thing, the best thing, you get to network a whole lot. It was so great to meet so many people. So people that I talk to through social media. There's people who you've read their papers or done their courses, or you watch videos that they put out, and you get a chance that they are there, and you can grab them and talk about something and to say, hey, we're all in the same mindset there. That I read your paper on the stuff with the shoulder. I'd like to talk to you about this. And you can sometimes grab them, or even afterwards, like, hey, can we get a drink afterwards? We can go to dinner. Or to say, hey, if you have time down the line, I would love to talk to you. You can exchange cards and stuff like that. Also, again, with all those vendors, if you're somebody that is, running your own clinic, you can talk to vendors, be like, hey, I would like to use you as an exclusive supplier. Could you cut me a deal? If you're an influencer, if you're somebody who has a social media presence and you do see vendors there that you like, and it's like, hey, this would be something that I would utilize in my clinic, and I'd be very willing to promote your products. Again, talking to them about what your media package is and saying, hey, I can get supplies and get a discount on it, and I could be able to give a discount out to people. And again, you're building a network. So I know that there are some naysayers out there that talk about that this is a stupid thing to go through. It's pointless. Why are they having it in Boston? Because it's so cold. I believe really the reason why they did it up there and in February, I mean, think about it. There's not a lot going on after the holidays. Usually a lot of hotels and stuff do see a dip in it. So they probably get a cheaper rate on the hotel. What else are a lot of us doing that time of year? If you get in summer, you got a lot of people traveling and work, of course, work picking up. Be a slower time of year, stuff may be a little bit cheaper. So again, they're probably saving a lot of money on that. But again, the people that say that's negative stuff, typically there's always negative, and I find it's best is to try to avoid negative people in general, because it's just they enjoy just being negative, and when they bring you down to being negative with them. Anyway, whatever. But I would say, and I would pass this to anybody, students or PTs alike, I mean, either one, if you have an opportunity to go, it would be something that could be worthwhile for you. And you can look at that, just planning down the line to say, that I plan on going. I think next year it's in Houston. One, if it's close to you, if it's fairly close, setting aside the money. If you just take a little bit of money from every paycheck, set it aside into a sinking fund, and say I'm going to take $20, $30, put that aside, so that way you can pay for your registration, or because you do get CEUs, you can't expense that. You get a flight, get a hotel, set aside for the food as well, that what you're going to eat, stuff there, that you can set that aside so that when you go, that you can really be immersed in it and not really trying to rack up a lot of debt. Because I will say again, they have these often in big cities. And the reason why, again, I've talked to somebody about that. They said we have to hold it places that can hold 10 to 15,000 people. Like that's the thing. Like, there's only like a couple big cities that support that infrastructure for that many people at one time. So that's kind of why they have to have them in big cities. And of course, big cities typically can be more expensive. But again, if you have a chance to go, and then when you go, think about kind of what your goal is. Like, do I want to network with people? Hey, I just want to meet people, because again, those things could pay off down the line. Maybe if I'm looking for a job somewhere, I met this person over here and I can talk with them and maybe they can lead me to something. I want to get into teaching. Okay, again, I've talked to somebody who was a professor at this school and maybe they can talk and lead me to something else. Or again, with these companies, hey, I'm kind of interested about this AI software, and maybe that's something that I could get in and be a consultant with to help you kind of develop and get make your software better and more accessible to the working the PT. We're like, hey, this is what we are dealing with, this is what we want, this is what we were talking about, so we can utilize those things and carry that forward. So it gives a very good chance to network. And of course, you're picking up all the information there from the courses that you can go and just saying, hey, I'm just going to pick up some new information from people, I'm going to take this back, and of course, like I said, the biggest thing, probably one of the biggest, largest thing, it kind of rejuvenates you. You see everyone there was so happy, so passionate. And there was this energy every single day. And that's all. I've seen so many people this week posting about how excited they are to go back into the clinic and to start working with people again and talking with people. And they want to start new things and do new things, and they want to be better and things like that. And they're just carrying this excitement, and it can be a way that can really kind of charge those PT batteries in you, and that you can carry again, that you can do all that. So there you go. That's my thoughts on CSM. So I would suggest, if you have a chance to go 1 year, plan it and go. Be great. I'd love to meet you. Love to see you there. And of course, if you have something that maybe you're interested in talking about, looking at giving a proposal to it, I do know some people that can help with kind of how you word your stuff to get that in. Kind of going to be a little challenging, but it would be interesting with people that you can present. It can get you in your way of presenting it and doing that stuff. So there you go. That's my thoughts on CSM. And thank you again to everyone I got to meet and talk to there. I hope you're doing some, you're going out and doing some wonderful things. And it was, again, very wonderful to meet all you people, all of you out there. So again, if you like this video, please hit the like button, and of course, consider subscribing to the channel. And if you like it, just comment, discuss down below. Happy to hear that, your thoughts. Did you like it? Did you love it? You want some more of it, or whatever that song is. Or did you hate it? Think it was the stupidest thing you ever, and you wasted a ton of money? Whatever. That's your opinion on there. So there you go. And until next time, we'll do it all over again.